My wife, since the time she could remember, has always had one desire in life, and that is to be a mother. So you can understand and probably appreciate her disappointment when a doctor told her, "I'm sorry, but I can't tell you why, but you're not going to have any babies." Now, the idea of being a parent was probably the most important things we knew of. So immediately we started looking for other options. We can now say that we have struggled through the adoption process, but we have learned that it doesn't need to be a scary thing, and that it can bring much joy and happiness into your home. We have adopted 4 children. Our first child came to us as a baby right out of the hospital. When he turned 4 years old, we had then adopted a 6 and a 3-year-old girl and boy. Then when our daughter turned 9 years old, we then adopted our 4th child, who was 12 at the time. The older our child have gotten, the age of adoption, the more difficulty we have had as they adjust to our lifestyle from a very chaotic lifestyle they've had in the past. Today I want to talk to you about some things about adoption, and if you remember, will help you avoid some pain in the process as well as make your life a better place. There are 3 main issues that I think everyone should understand. The first one is there are struggles that you will have, especially as you adopt an older child, but you can overcome them with the proper help. 2, utilizing resources like counseling is not just for the child, but is also very beneficial for the parent. And 3, adoption is part of the plan of salvation. Understanding the temple blessings that we have available to us will help us overcome the struggles and the challenges that we have in adoption. I want to begin by explaining why adoption is not just about babies. It's also about older children. We don't know why, but many people have different issues with conceiving. And so adoption becomes a part of their life as well. Now, the older we might get, it might be kind of hard to bring in a baby. And so sometimes, based on age or based on the need to want to help a child just to have a home of their own, sometimes we adopt older children. There are many reasons that this can be a bigger struggle and a challenge as compared to adopting a baby newborn out of the hospital. Peggy Sewell wrote an article called "Adopting Older Children and Children with Special Needs." She said, "Most of the time when you hold the baby, they smile as a response to your care. Whether they know it or not, they're dependent on you, and that they are forming a bond with you." Now, this period of bonding is probably the most important time for a child to foster the relationship with the parent. An older child, however, will be losing whatever bond they might have. Whether they have bonded to their birth parent and at some point have been taken away, or if they've been bounced from house to house in various foster care environments, they may have bonded little by little with each of those placements as well. By the time they come to you, they've probably only real relationship they have is a relationship of loss. An older child coming from an environment where they've been bounced from care to care can bring a confusing understanding as to what a family really is. The role of the parent can be very confusing. You might be trying to provide love and support, but in their eyes, they think you might be just trying to get between them and their birth parent. Common respect becomes something that's very hard to develop. Emotions can be up and down as parents take on the role, especially as a disciplinarian. Melinda Smith and Joanna Sayson wrote in an article called "Attachment and Reactive Attachment Disorders." They said, "An inconsistent childhood could result in attachment or other disorders. If a child feels repeatedly abandoned, they will learn that they cannot depend on anyone, and they will also feel that their new home is a dangerous and unsafe place. Issues like attachment disorder keep your new child from developing a trusting relationship with you and your spouse, as well as other kids in the home. Many times they give up on proper behavior to speed up the process of being kicked out, if you will. We've seen this experience in our own family. One of our children in particular would struggle with attachment disorder quite often, and her theory was, and the way this disorder works is rather than fall in love with the surrounding, knowing that one day you're just going to get ripped from it anyway, as that love starts to develop and the relationship starts to strengthen, they do what they can to be kicked out of the home. And that way, they will not feel that love being torn from them again. The idea of chaos going from house to house becomes more comfortable to them than falling in love to possibly lose that relationship. As you adopt and try to build a relationship with your new child, you begin to see the results of sometimes very difficult childhoods. It's natural to want to get into power struggle with your child. But working with professionals, they may help both you and your child understand what issues there really are and what issues are keeping you from developing the strong relationship. Nancy Kahigan wrote in Welcome to the Attachment Disorder, she said there are many disorders like attachment disorder, borderline personality disorder, and feeling of abandonment. Having a correct diagnosis there is very beneficial to solving the problem. Catherine Petrelli also wrote in Long-Term Issues for the Adopted Child, not every problem stems from some disorder. It may simply be a struggle with self-esteem and identity crisis. Talking these issues out might help the child understand that their new identity can be a wonderful and life-changing event. Now, counseling is not just for the child. Counseling is also just as important for the parent. It's important for the parent to understand what issues really are there so that they have a better ability to handle the stress of this new relationship. It's not uncommon in our home to hear, I hate you. You're not my real dad. Understanding the issues, though, help us understand that she really doesn't feel that way. That it's not really an issue of her hating us per se, but it's more of she hates the environment. She hates the change. So understanding those problems allows us to not take it personal, allows us not to internalize it and feel we're failing. It allows us to basically understand she's struggling and she's scared. In most cases, the best counseling we can ever receive comes from living the gospel of Jesus Christ. Understanding the plan of salvation and understanding that the temple can bring us such wonderful blessings through the sealing power, it gives us hope that our family will not only be together forever, but it's a relationship that we do want to continue to work on and strengthen. The sealing ordinance of the gospel is for everyone. And it doesn't matter if your child was an adopted child or it was born into the covenant. You can and will receive a forever family. You know, we now have 4 times been sealed, like I said. 3 of those times it has been to our children. I can attest that at one time I was afraid that the adoption process would be hard because I don't think I could fall in love with a child who was not my own. But I can tell you, as I've sat across the altar of the temple with these children, that feeling disappears immediately. I know that they're my children. They are my own, and they will be with me forever. One thing that's important, though, in the gospel as well is the issue of free agency. We need to understand that these children do have their free agency. These challenges may make them want to make wrong choices in a much more aggravated way, in the sense that they do it also just to provoke anger and provoke chaos. But understanding that we have free agency will definitely help in this new relationship. We also have these 4 children due to choices that were made by their parents that were wrong. And so free agency, in one respect, was a blessing to our family. But it keeps us grounded as our children make mistakes. They came to us with no understanding of the gospel. They came to us with no understanding what agency was. But being an eternal family helps us to bring that perspective into their life so that they can start to understand and appreciate that as they make choices, they will own their own consequences. It's important that they understand that they will be responsible for their choices. But it's also important for us as the parent to know that they can own their own choices. We want our children to do what is right. It's natural. But we have to teach them. We have to give them the resources for success. But we must always allow them to make their own choices. Remembering this will actually bring more happiness into your home and help develop a better relationship with these children. In summary, I want to read from True to the Faith. It says, we believe that children are entitled to be raised by parents who honor marital vows and who can provide love and support. Adoption can be a great blessing for many children who are born without this opportunity. Adoption can also be a great blessing to couples who are unable to conceive their own children. Welcoming professional help and relying on the principles of the gospel will help overcome the challenges and struggles of adoption and bring much happiness into your home. I can testify to you that adoption is not easy. It's very challenging and at some points makes you almost want to quit. But I can tell you also that it is probably the most rewarding experience in our lives. And we are very truly blessed for having these children in our home to be part of our family. Thank you.